The Monster of 63rd Street, Inside the Depraved Mind of H. Holmes. Herman Webster Mudgett, a.k.a. Dr. Henry Howard Holmes, is one of America's first noted serial murderers. He killed at least 27 women during the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition, e.g. World's Fair, in Chicago. In addition to murder, Holmes enjoyed performing extreme forms of torture and mutilation on those he lured into traps. He is perhaps best known for what would later be dubbed the Murder Castle, a two-story maze designed by Holmes with numerous trapdoors, hidden passages, and torture chambers. Many researchers have been fascinated with peering behind the facade that Dr. Holmes contrived and looking into his formative years for clues to what might have led to his later atrocities. As is often the case with serial murderers, the childhood of Holmes was shaped by physical abuse, difficulties in socializing with peers, and cruelty towards animals. Introduction. Mudgett was a criminal for all seasons. Insurance fraud, swindling naive women, and murdering the unsuspecting were but a few of Herman Webster. Mudgett's, better known as Dr. Henry Howard Holmes, misdeeds that culminated in the creation of his most notorious venture, the building his neighbors would go on to name the Murder Castle. The castle, located in Chicago, was completed in 1892. After 4 years of meticulous construction and renovations, its two-story structure engulfed an entire city block. The castle was a symbolic representation of Holmes himself, disturbing and distorted on the inside, yet prosperously elegant on the outside. Holmes renovated and built it into the perfect facade for his two-story torture chambers and dissection rooms. While the upper floors housed many intricate torture chambers, it was in the basement where Holmes disemboweled and stripped the flesh from his victims with powerful acids, before using a crematorium disguised as an oil furnace to burn the bodies of his victims. A year after the castle's completion, the World's Fair opened in Chicago. Holmes used the increase in tourism to his advantage by advertising lodging vacancies and employment openings as a ruse to lure in victims. The hustle and bustle of the fair and the subsequent influx of out-of-towners provided Holmes with a steady supply of victims. After the fair ended, Holmes and his close associate Benjamin Pitezel left Chicago to commit insurance fraud nationwide. This ended in Holmes' 1894 arrest for attempting to defraud a St. Louis pharmacy. While incarcerated, he met fellow criminal Marion Hedgepeth. The two conspired to create an insurance scam by fabricating Pitezel's death. Holmes decided it was easier to simply kill Pitezel and his family, while also cutting out his co-conspirator. These decisions resulted in a $10,000 life insurance payout. However, when Hedgepeth read of Pitezel's death, he was angered and alerted the authorities to Holmes, forcing the man to go on the run. In November 1894, Holmes was arrested by the Pinkerton Detective Agency in Boston, Massachusetts. He was charged with conspiracy to cheat and defraud the Fidelity Mutual Life Insurance Company and was sent to Moyamensing Prison in Philadelphia. Upon his capture and the subsequent discovery of his house of horror, newspapers gave Holmes the moniker of Archfiend, the Devil Incarnate, Monster of 63rd Street, and the Torture Doctor. In addition, Holmes earned the label of Bluebeard for his habit of luring in and taking advantage of multiple women, e.g. mistresses, girlfriends, and random strangers, most of whom he eventually killed in 1895. Holmes was tried and convicted for the Pitezel murders, which included 3 of Pitezel's children. During his trial, Holmes officially confessed to 27 murders, but later told his lawyer that he had killed 133 people. These claims gained credibility after the Chicago police allegedly discovered the gruesome remains of more than 100 dead bodies, all scattered throughout the murder castle. Holmes was hanged at Moyamensing Prison on May 7, 1896. He was reportedly calm in the moments prior to his hanging, seemingly unconcerned about his imminent demise. He confessed, saying, "I was born with the devil in me. I could not help the fact that I was a murderer, no more than a poet can help the inspiration to sing." Ironically, Holmes took precautions to prevent the dismemberment of his own body, According to his will, his casket was to be filled with cement and put in a grave, with an additional 2 feet of cement. Holmes's childhood. On May 16, 1861, H. H. Holmes was born as Herman Webster Mudgett in Gilmanton, New Hampshire, to Levi Horton Mudgett and Theodate Page Price. Gilmanton was a small, isolated town located 20 miles north of Concord. Some sources claim that Holmes was born in 1860, but Holmes himself stated that he was born in 1861, which was also verified in the New Hampshire Birth and Christenings Index. Holmes' parents were devout Methodists and demanded total obedience from him. Before marriage, his mother was a schoolteacher. She was described as a cold and distant individual who used religion as a daily guide for parenting. His alcoholic father followed a strict disciplinarian approach that resulted in physical abuse. Holmes' parents were both physically and mentally abusive towards him, and this was particularly true of his father. The harsh disciplinary tactics included prolonged isolation and even food deprivation. Furthermore, his father reportedly held kerosene-soaked rags over Holmes and the other children's mouths to quiet them when they cried. During these instances of abuse by his father, Holmes found refuge in the forest near his home. It was in the forest that he began dissecting animals and developing his deviant fascination with things, both dead and alive. It is possible that Holmes, who was known as a very intelligent loner, was so traumatized by the abuse that it ultimately led to his inability to form meaningful relationships. His abuse may also have contributed to his penchant for lies, swindling, and abusing others. Serial killers are 6 times more likely to have experienced physical abuse in their childhood than the average population. However, Holmes's parents were not the only contributing factor to his abusive upbringing. As a child, Holmes was bullied and abused in school for his good grades and slightly odd demeanor. The most noted of these experiences occurred when Holmes, blindsided by classmates, was forced into a doctor's office where the hands of a skeleton were forcibly placed over his face. Holmes later recollected that this event was the reason for his curiosity about anatomy, which later led him to pursue a degree at the University of Michigan Medical School in 1884. The existence of a ruthless killer like Holmes astounds the mind on a multitude of levels. While some see him, as his moniker exemplifies, an incarnation of evil, others regard his deviance as the product of former transgressions. Whether one's perception of Holmes is that of a man turned evil or evil born into a man, the determination of the cause for his lust for killing requires some insights into his childhood, animal torture, corpses, and first blood. Holmes's urges to experiment with animals failed to subside throughout his youth. He found woodland creatures near his childhood home and performed dissections on them to explore their biology. Initially, dissecting reptiles, he later moved on to mammals, such as rabbits and dogs. This not only provided Holmes with flesh-cutting skills at a young age, but also acted as a psychological facilitator for his later obsession with human anatomy. Furthermore, advancements in medicine garnered much public attention, to the point that skeletons were frequently displayed in doctors' office windows. For Holmes, accessing medical information was relatively easy. Holmes' morbid curiosity may have led to him killing his childhood friend at the age of 11, disguising it as an accident. Holmes, although a reclusive individual, had an older friend named Tom. While exploring an abandoned home together, Holmes recalls witnessing Tom die by falling off a landing. However, there is speculation that Holmes was standing close enough behind Tom that he may have intentionally pushed him. Thank you, friends, for listening today. If you would like to hear about anyone in particular, let me know in the comments. Comment your thoughts down below, and as always, smash the like button, subscribe, and share. Until next time, friends, from us at the Midnight Society.